Shanti, how are you all? Today we are going to discuss about the death of Sushant Singh Rajput. The whole India is actually speaking about the suicide committed by Sushant Singh. So he became famous throughout India through the film MS Dhoni. He also made a film that advocated against committing suicide, and after that he committed suicide. That puts everybody into shock. People just keep on guessing about the reasons why he committed suicide, but you can just only guess. You can't find the right answer. Only he knows the right answer. Maybe even he doesn't know that. Yes, that's the nature of depression. He's been under depression for the past 6 months. So depression can make a man do anything, both mentally and physically. So nobody can predict the outcome of depression. Some people, after undergoing depression, they commit suicide, or they attempt suicide if by any chance somebody stops him from committing suicide, and if you ask them why they wanted to commit suicide, they would simply say, I don't know. Yes, they wouldn't know that. Something urges them to commit suicide. Maybe Sushant may be a victim of that kind of symptom. Not only depression, even the antidepressant drugs do have that ability to put someone under suicidal behavior. That's the side effect of the drug. Not only that, if you stop an antidepressant drug immediately, even then you will have that suicidal tendency. Nobody knows what is the actual cause of Sushant committing suicide. I think depression is the most dangerous and deadly disease compared to any other disease, because we can predict the outcome of any other disease, but regarding depression, it's highly impossible for you to predict its outcome. And now people claim that there are some within the Bollywood industry who are the reason behind him committing suicide, because they say that only star kids are allowed to cherish in Bollywood and others are deprived of their chances. So that's what they mean by nepotism. But on a large scale, though it looks very dark, very negative, but it is not so. Seriously, if there is A and B, very thick friends, so if B is going to help someone C, that's going to affect A, then A is obviously going to emotionally blackmail him, that I did so much to you, but in return you are not doing anything, and you are creating someone against me as a competition. So that is what nepotism stands for. So it happens in daily life. Why blame only Bollywood? It happens just in our private life. We behave so with our friends, our thick friends behave so with us. So to put it very positively, it's all about being loyal to someone who helped us in our initial stage. If you look in this angle, you wouldn't see anything wrong in this. But now, instead of blaming the external world, what we need to really think about is, we all undergo depression, whether at minor or major level, at very many times of a day. So we need to look out for the solution to come out of the depression instead of blaming others for what we suffer, because no one is responsible for us. Only we are responsible for every single thought we produce. It is the thought that make us depressed. So if we don't have control over our thoughts, it's going to push you into depression and also push you into the situation that makes you commit suicide. So it's high time that we should focus inwards instead of seeing the external situation, because you will always find some stimuli outside that's going to put you depressed. It is very easy. So we just have to change the vision. Instead, we have to stay focused on what's going on inside. But we don't pay much attention to what's going on inwards. That's the reason we find something we are not comfortable with in the external world, out of which we suffer. Why should we let something that happens externally affect what's going on inside? That is where the true meditation comes in. That comes in as a quick help. But we don't take it seriously. We don't want to do any reform to our mind. Instead, we want to create reform in the external society. It's good. It's always good. You need not do anything. That is the essence of Gita, right? Everything that happened in the past was good. Everything that's happening is good. Everything that's going to happen is going to be very better. So you need not do anything there. Just realize that everything is good. That will put you into peace, and that is what you need to be bothered about, because in the end it's all about the peace of mind that we work for. So we want the external environment to be the way that gives you peace. That's probably because we do not have any idea or method to put ourselves peaceful without depending on the external environment. This nepotism can also be called as a caste system, because in good old days we believe that people belonging to a particular caste, they did only certain things because they were experts of only that occupation. But some leaders, they fought against it because they do not want people to do the profession based on their birth. But the casteism has changed its form and it has emerged as nepotism. We all react to this very negatively, mainly because we are not aware of the world cycle. We are here in Kali Yuga. What's going on around us is normal for Kali Yuga. This is not Satyug for you will see everything that's going to make you more peaceful. That's not going to happen in Kali Yuga. Don't expect that. You are going to find mistreatment everywhere. Don't you find that right in your school days? It is there. It is everywhere, right? At least in India. So it is there. We will be unfairly treated, but don't react, because it is what we are punished for. We are punished for our past sins of our past births. If we are aware of this, we would never react to anything. Only when you hold responsible for all the bad things that comes your way, only then you will stay at peace. If you think you are not responsible for the punishment that you receive, only then you want to rebel, you want to spoil the peace of yourself and others. We need to understand one thing. Once we start suffering depression, it's really very hard to come out of it. There is absolutely no medicine for it. The only medicine doctors prescribe is to put you into sleep. They prescribe only sedative. There's not going to be any treatment. You can't even work through meditation, because along with meditation you may have to take the treatment continuously, maybe till death. So many people are going towards depression, but still majority of us are not in that state. We haven't fallen into depression. So at least we can protect us from falling into depression in the future. So that is what this video is all about. We have to constantly remind ourselves that everything happens for a reason. So there's nothing bad. Everything is good. Only we don't understand that because we are unable to understand the reality of what's going on around us. Because we are in the middle of the 5,000-year journey. We do not know what happened in the past. So we do not know why this is happening. But this is a consequence of what you did in the past, either in the past of this birth or in your past births. So everything is happening as a consequence. You will always say that a kid of the principal of the college will be treated high above the rest. So that's common. You can't fight against it. Why should we fight against that? Sometimes he may have gotten the chance that you should have got it, but it looks unfair, but it is not unfair. He has worked for it in his previous birth to be born to the principal. You've got to understand that. Nothing happened without any effort. But we are carried away by what we see in the present moment. But what happens in the present moment is just an outcome of what happened in the past. Just because we are not aware of this law of karma, that we react to something and make it more complicated, that's going to bring more harm to us. There's no big difference between the riots that's been going on in America due to the killing of a black man by the police and the Sushant case. It's just a different form of the same thing. Yes, they think the blacks are not treated fairly. But that's not true. So maybe the killing was not right, but police didn't kill someone black randomly. So they wanted to punish someone who committed a crime. But what they did may not be fair from what we know from the present situation, but we do not know anybody's past karma. Even if it is not justifiable, then what's happening is between those two. Or you can target one particular police, but that was not the case there. They want to defund the whole police system. So that's going to prove lethal to any society. Just imagine a society without police. Who is going to suffer? Not the rich. They will have their own private god. Only the poor, they can't go out freely. Now they are experiencing. Even the community that's participating in the riot, even that community people are suffering now due to the looting because of the lack of police. That's why I said, not I said, God said in Gita that everything is happening for a reason and is for good. Don't bother, you do not know what happened in the past. But believe me, everything is going quite well. So anyone gets depressed mainly for two reasons. One is the love breakup and second is the financial setback. Only these two reasons forms a major cause of suicide. So we will all encounter these situations at some point of life. So no matter what happens outside, you should always keep a check on what's going on inside. So you should know what is normal. Only then you can find whether you have become abnormal. So what is normal? Being in a state of bliss and peacefulness is quite normal for our soul. So anything that takes you out of peacefulness and blissfulness is going to be detrimental. So you should not let yourself go out of that peaceful state. For that, you need to know the technique to get into that blissful state and be there forever. So that technique is something only God knows. Only God comes and teaches us this technique called Raj Yoga meditation. In addition to that, you should also be aware of the time cycle called Kalpa. It consists of 5,000 years. So it starts with Yuga called Satyug. You can also call it the Golden Age. It started 5,000 years before, and it was heaven. The whole world was heaven for the first 2,500 years, followed by 2,500 years of hell. Yes, the same earth which was heaven in the beginning became hell in the end. What is the reason? We were soul conscious in the beginning, which means we considered ourselves to be this imperishable soul that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus have this habit of keeping the red dot called bindi over here. We are souls originally, and they were aware of it. So it's none but us. Yes, we took our initial births as deities in heaven. Then we took many number of rebirths, and after completing the first 2,500 years, we entered hell and we started experiencing pain. Till then, we were experiencing nothing but blissfulness, happiness, and peacefulness. We were very rich, we were very healthy, and we were ever happy, because the name of that world itself is heaven, and it would be filled with wealth. There would be diamonds and golds everywhere. Even the brick stone was made of gold. It would be filled with golden palaces, but it wouldn't have any windows or doors, because there is no need for that, because nobody knows what theft is. They were so innocent, so pure. That's why they were worshipped as deities now by Hindus in temples. So they were none but us. We initially were deities. So we were filled with divine characters. We wouldn't cause any sort of pain to anybody, either through thoughts, word, or action. Not only us, even the animals around us, including the wild animals like lion and tiger, they wouldn't hurt anybody. In fact, they would, lion and lamb, they take water in the same time from the same pond, which means they wouldn't eat on other animals like they do now. They have changed like this because of us. Yes, while we were pure, those animals were kind. When we became impure by corrupting our mind with lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego, only then these wild animals, they started developing wild characters. So that's how the world which was once heaven becomes hell. The main reason for that is we in heaven were soul conscious. We didn't consider ourselves to be this perishable body. But in hell, we started considering ourselves to be these perishable bodies, because we forget that we were souls. We lose the soul consciousness and become body consciousness. That is why we started experiencing pain and sorrow, because we fall for these 5 vices called lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. And what happens as a result of falling for these 5 vices is we lose the ability to think. Yes, it has a great direct impact on our mind. We lose our ability to differentiate between right and wrong. So the more we fall into those vices, the more we lose our wisdom to differentiate between right and wrong. So in the end, we become so corrupted with these 5 vices that we consider all the wrong things to be right and all the right things to be wrong. That's why it has become such a hell. There is no peace in family, there is no peace in school, there is no peace in college, there's no peace in workplace, there's no peace in politics, there's no peace in our state, there's no peace in India, there's no peace in the world, in the whole world. All because of the fact that we have become slaves for these 5 vices. The only way out of that is to conquer those vices. How can we do that? No single person can conquer that on his own, nor does he know the method to conquer that. Only God knows that, because only God stays away from it, because God doesn't take birth like us through a mother's womb. This is where God resides. This is called the soul world, or Parandam, or Parlok. So this is where not only God resides, but also we souls reside along with God in the beginning. From there, God is also a soul, which is why he is called Supreme Soul, Param Atma. We are Atma, souls. So there's no big difference in the appearance of souls and Supreme Soul. Only difference is we take birth in heaven, then we take rebirth, birth after birth, till the end. Only in the end, during the destruction of the old world called hell, that we go back to where we came from, to the soul world. But God doesn't enter heaven, doesn't enter hell, but he enters an old man's body towards the end of the old world. To put it right, he comes just 100 years before the destruction of the world. So he enters an old man's body because he couldn't take birth on his own. He enters him mainly to give this knowledge so that we can understand what happened in the past, so that we can prepare ourselves for the right future, that is to enter the golden world. Yes, though we are seeing many sorrowful incidents around us throughout the globe, the good news is it's not going to retain, it's not going to be there forever. Yes, this world is going to become heaven again. That's why God has come, to give this good news and also enable us to enter heaven. What should we do? God says, you need to possess all the divine characters you once possessed while you were deities. They do not know what lust, anger, greed, attachment and ego is, because they were soul conscious. They didn't have the consciousness of this body. They didn't fall for lust. If they don't fall for lust, obviously they wouldn't fall for anger, greed, attachment and ego. That is why it was heaven. They were always peaceful and blissful. But in the hell, we started falling for these vices because we wrongly considered ourselves to be this perishable body, which is why we get attracted towards the opposite sexes. So God says you are just a point of light, shining like a tiny star in between your eyebrows. Whether it's a beautiful girl, whether it's a newborn child, whether it's an old lady that's about to die, the souls within each of us is going to be just a tiny point. It's going to look similar. You got to understand this. Don't fall for what you see externally. That's not them. It is just an instrument that's been given to us to do what we want. We can make this body to do what we want. That is why this body is given for us, not to fall for the beauty of that body, because that's not going to stay forever. And we initially had this knowledge, but gradually as we become slaves of these 5 vices, especially sex, that we lose our ability to think. That is why we have fallen into the trap of these 5 vices called Satan or Maya or Ravan. These 5 vices called anger, attachment, ego, lust, and greed. These 5 vices are present both in men and women. They are combinedly called 10-headed Ravan. Not that there is someone with 10 heads as described in Ramayana. No, it didn't happen as such. So what is going on inside us during the last 100 years? That is what they portrayed as Ramayana, Mahabharata, Quran, Bible, and so on. So everything happens within us. We are fighting against those vices. How do we do that? There is a weapon, divine weapon, Divyastra. What is that? Remembrance of God. So far in the path of devotion, we have been thinking God, we have been praying to Him without even knowing how He looks like, without even knowing who He is. What is He to us? That is why we are not happy forever. So now God Himself comes and gives His introduction that He is a point of light. We are also a point of light. We resided together in Parandam and we came here from Him 5,000 years back. And it is now time to get back to our home. So God has come to take us back with Him to our sweet home. That is why God has come. And before that, we need to purify ourselves, because this is the pure world. Nobody can enter, no impure soul can enter there. So we have to purify ourselves. By purification, I mean to get rid of those 5 vices completely. There shouldn't even be a trace of those vices. How do we do that? By remembering God. How do we remember Him? As a point of light, because that's how God looks like. And this world, Parandam, is a golden orange colored light world. So we have to visualize God as a point of light in the golden red colored sky, because that's where He dwells, right? So the more we remember God as a point of light, after considering ourselves to be the point of light as well, more our sins will be washed off. Only these 5 vices are called sins. How do we know that our sins are washed off? We will no longer be stimulated to commit those sins. We are sinful, that is why we wanted to do more and more sin. That is the nature of sin. Once your lustful behavior decreased totally, you will no longer be attracted towards, no matter how beautiful a woman stands in front of you, no matter how glamorous she is, you will not even slightly be attracted to her. That is when you can realize that you are totally washed off your sins. So this is the right time, because this world, through cinema, through education, through everything, it's going to stimulate you into committing more and more sins. So you have to be steadfast in remembering God, in not seeing the external world, because that's going to betray you over and over again. Don't stay focused on that. Of course, you need to work to look after your body, but do it without getting attached to it. That is what Srimad Bhagavad Gita is all about. Committing, doing work without getting attached to it. How do we do that? We attach ourselves to God mentally, and our hands will be doing whatever work we need to do, but our mind will get attached only to God. We may be speaking with our parents, with our wife, with our kids, but our mind, we don't let our mind get attached to those relations, because they are perishable. If you let your mind attached to them, one day or another they have to leave you, whether permanently or temporarily. So that's going to put you into depression. So you shouldn't let that happen. You know what? you should understand the law of karma. You may be born to a rich parent or a very poor parent. It's all decided by your own karma. It is you who decided it. So you should understand it. You should take responsibility for that. You shouldn't put blame on anybody. It is your karma that has manifested itself into your parent, whatever kind they belong to. It is purely the manifestation of your past karma. If you are born to a very unhappy family, it means you have committed that kind of karma in your past life. You got to accept it. What can we do now? You can try your best to wash off those sins. How do we do that? By remembering God more intensely. That's the only way out. It may not look logical, but only if you experience it, you can know what I'm speaking about. The more suffering you have to encounter, it means you have committed more sins. Yes, it's going to be very difficult for you to come out of that sin, but you have to do it. You got to do it. So resisting or revolting against someone who is good is not the solution. That's going to make you more sinful, which in turn is going to make you suffer more and more pain or to commit suicide. You shouldn't let those thoughts into you. You got to focus on one thing. Instead of focus on your work, getting attached to your work or the people who are working with you, you got to understand that you got to work on the kind of behavior that you are exhibiting to your fellow members. You need to keep constant check over what kind of words you utter. Is there any chance of somebody getting hurt because of your words due to lack of attention? It may sound totally normal for you, but you do not know whether or not it hurts them, because what's normal to you may be very hurting to others. So you got to think of it. You got to see them, look at them in their eyes, because you can have the idea of whether or not what you say is actually pleasing to them or hurting them. If it is hurting them, you can ask if you feel hurt by what you said. And also you can have this habit of ending each conversation by saying that I'm really very sorry if I hurt you, but please let me know, because I do not know. Maybe my nature hurt you, but please let me. I'm very sorry. I really don't mean to hurt you. Just make it practice to say this at the end of the conversation with anybody, because you don't know whether or not you hurt others. Because it is the character that matters. It's not your talent that matters. You may be very talented, but you do not know whether or not you hurt anybody. So if you just maintain your attention in this particular aspect, then I'm damn sure no matter where in life you are, you will be catapulted to the highest position within a short span of time. You know why? Because this is the law of karma that never fails. Actually, Sushant is a very talented guy, very good looking, more than handsome guy. So he was very good looking. So if he complains that he's mistreated by others, what would someone who is not good looking say about this? Because they wouldn't even be considered by them, right? Especially in the glamour industry. And regarding nepotism, that star kids get all the chances. Well, that's how the world is designed. Yes, even in heaven, it is a kingdom. It is called the kingdom of heaven. So there will be king and a queen. Only those who were born to king will be made the next king. So that's how the world was for the first 2500 years. Not only for the first 2500 years, even in hell, it continues to be so. Until recent past, after Gandhiji, that they wiped out that system, and they think that democracy is going to be a good substitute. But look at what has made the world. So you have removed the kingdom thinking that you are very smart than God. You know what? We see people like Hitler in some places creating tough rules for people. It's there in many places, but not all the time, only for a certain period of time. Then they get killed by somebody or they commit suicide themselves. They continue to be there as long as the ones who need to be punished are there. Once the punishment is over, then he will also be over. So you need to know that only people who has to be punished based on law of karma will be born in the regime of such cruel king or somebody or rulers. If you are good, you will definitely be born in a very good family, belonging to a very good place. If your karma is very bad, obviously you will be born to a very bad family. So even if you happen to know this law of karma through this video or some other thing, even then it's going to be a bit tough for you to come out of it, because the more sin you commit, more effort is needed to come out of that sin. So we got to understand that you will never get this teaching through the school books or college books or in library. Nobody writes about this. Everybody says it's unfair, we need to fight back. So Gandhi started this, and that's why the whole world is like this. We shouldn't oppose anything, because everything is under the rule of God. Are we smarter than God? So people rebelling against anybody for any cause, what they are doing is they are actually fighting against God without even knowing that. So now I'm going to tell you the technique of checking whether or not you are going towards depression. Because believe me, everybody is in a depressed mode in Kali Yuga. But how depressed you are, that makes the difference. So now we have to come out of the depressed state totally. So that's why God has come to rescue us from these depressed people. So to save all souls, he says you need to remember God more so that you can experience that peaceful and blissful state. Not that is all. You also need to listen to God. He speaks through an old man called Brahma. So that knowledge, that divine knowledge given directly by God is called Murli. So it is available in all Raja Yoga meditation centers across the globe. You can Google it in your own language. You can Google as Tamil Murli, Telugu Murli, English Murli, Hindi Murli. It's there everywhere. So go to the nearest Raja Yoga meditation center and take this course absolutely free of cost, because it is given directly by God, not by any human. God is our Father. Father doesn't expect money from kids, right? He gives it totally free of cost. All he wants is to make us back into Lakshmi and Narayan. Yes, they were the first king and queen of the golden world, which is why in India, especially in South India, they have this celebration called the opening ceremony of heaven in Lord Narayan temple, because he was the first king of heaven. So you got to wake up very early, at least before 4, so that you can meditate for 4 to 5. By meditation I mean considering yourself as a point of light in between the eyebrows and remembering our Father, God, who is called Shiva. He is called the heavenly Godfather by Christians and Allah by Muslims. God is one, and all the others are deities, His creation. That's why Muslims say only Allah is the creator, everybody else is creation. But what they do not know is deities of creation. Deities were the original creation of God. So we are very lucky enough to get the direct knowledge of God. Not everybody gets it. Even if everybody gets it, they couldn't understand it. Only if you happen to be the resident of heaven, only can you understand this knowledge fully. Only then you can see this video throughout. Or else you would have left even within the first minute of this video. If you have the patience to sit throughout this video, it obviously means you belong to the deity clan. So welcome to the golden world. So all we need to do to be able to enter heaven is to remember God constantly. Make constant effort. Of course, there will be obstacles because Maya is not an ordinary thing. He's equally powerful. He's very intelligent in diverting your mind away from God. Don't let him do that. Hold God as steadfast as possible through your remembrance. So keep remembering God constantly, and also keep reading Murli daily without fail, because that's how God communicates to us. God comes to the world only once, just to see us, just to give this divine knowledge so that we can elevate our life for the future 21 births. Yes, we will be taking 21 births in heaven, and the reason for the number to be less, to appear less, is we'll be having a longer lifespan. We'll be living for 115 years minimum. So after meditating in the early morning for 1 hour, you will be experiencing that peaceful state that you don't want to come out. What you need to do after that, you need to continue it, because it's just a mind game. You don't have to close your eyes, you don't have to utter anything, you just have to remember him as a point of light very lovingly. He is our Father. So by listening to Murli daily, you will develop that love automatically. And the more you remember him, the more you will get detached from the relationships, from the work, everything. But you will be very loving to others, but not attached, because it is the attachment that causes pain and sorrow, not the love. It's your love will be more like that of God's love towards others. He loves everybody, right? He doesn't hate anybody. He doesn't love someone over others. He loves everybody equally. That's how you will love others too, but you will be detached. Your mind will be constantly attached to God, so that you will be experiencing that peacefulness and blissfulness throughout. And you need to check whether or not the external thing or person has influenced your peace of mind. Because if your mind gets attached to something externally, the immediate indicator is you will be losing peace. So you have to enjoy it. You have to taste that peace. Only then you will know when you are losing it, so that you will immediately go and grab God through your mind and experience that peace continuously. And if you read it, especially if you read Murli or any other book, what happens is, especially in the morning time, if you read, you can read without any obstacle. You won't get stuck in the middle, and you wouldn't repeat the same sentence until you get the hang of it. That happens in the early morning naturally. But as the time progresses, you will find there will be a mental block. You can't continue without any block, because you wanted to read again and again to memorize it. You know why? That's because of the sins you have committed. Yes, it comes as a subtle memory that diverts your mind, that comes as a block, so that you can't concentrate on whatever you do. And if you read something, then you can get to know that very easily. But because you can do physical work without realizing that, but you can't do mental work without realizing that. That's why you got to read something in between. Especially if you read Murli, then that would be very nice, because it's very easy to understand, and you know when you can't proceed further. That's because you are under depressed state, because all the past thoughts, though in a subtle form, they keep fighting with you. So you got to come out of it through strong remembrance. So that's why it's always better to meditate every 1 hour for at least 2 to 3 minutes. It's more like controlling the thoughts that's going on in your mind. You need to have only thoughts that you need, but usually we will be filled with unnecessary thoughts 99% of the time. So that's going to take the power of the mind away from us. That's why people can't concentrate. That's why people can't concentrate on the studies, can't concentrate on the work, and so on. So if something bad happens externally, that's the negative thought that's going to dominate your other thoughts. That's why we experience depression. We have no experience of having control over our mind. So when that negative thought emerges, we do not know what to do. If we are educated, then we would go to the doctor. Not everybody goes to the doctor as well, only unless it shows serious symptoms, because depression can have multiple symptoms. Sometimes you will have unreasonable pain in your head, sometimes in your stomach, sometimes you will behave very aggressively. So some people will have that problem of breathlessness. It's very difficult for them to breathe. Everything comes out of depression. Sometimes you will have the negative thoughts like committing suicide. I believe that's something that prompted Sushant to commit suicide, because it so happened that his previous manager committed suicide just a week before that, after speaking with him. So he was already suffering from depression, which means suffering with negative thoughts. So that particular incident, he just took it unconsciously. So he thought even for his problem that might be the solution, because he don't want to fight it, because it's difficult to fight. It's very easy to advise anybody, but you can't control it. It just keeps, and moreover, he was alone due to this lockdown period. Otherwise he would be busy doing something else, so as time goes he would have forgotten and come out of it, but unfortunately it was not so. So that is why people, we used to watch movies, listen songs, especially when we are depressed. We naturally do that, but that's not the solution. We think that's the solution. Yes, of course you will forget that gradually and you will come out of it, but you know what, that attitude of getting depressed, that stays deep within. So it gets stronger and stronger as you encounter more and more such adverse situations. So at one point it's going to engulf you, made you commit suicide. So we need to just throw it out of our mind. For that you need to remember God as much as possible. Listen only to what God says. Everything else is just for formality. Don't get attached to anybody, even if it is your parents or wife or husband or kids, because that's going to feel you more depressed when they leave you or when they betray you, because that happens all the time, right? So you will always be encountering betrayals. So be prepared to face it. Whenever you get something, be prepared to lose it, because it is God who gives. He has every right to take it away from you, because it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God. Remember that. Whether it's fame, whether it's beauty, whether it's your talent, everything is just a gift of God. So you should be ready to give it back to Him, because even if you are not ready, He's going to take it back, including your body. Everybody knows that, right? Everybody has to die. then why should we get attached to this body that has no guarantee, that's not going to be permanent? After all, we are not this body, we are this. It's the driver. Soul is the driver of this body. It drives this body. This is just a vehicle. It may get corrupted any point of time. Don't bother. You will get a new vehicle. You will get a new body. So you should be aware of it all the time. This is not permanent. Our parents are not going to be permanent. Any other relationship, it's not going to be permanent, but God is going to be there always. Why can't we form a loving relationship with God, only with God, so that you can never be depressed? Not only that, you will be filled with blissfulness right now. You need not enter heaven to experience that blissfulness. You can experience it right away. Only if you can be blissful all the time, you will be allowed to enter heaven, because that's the place of blissfulness. So only people who can stay blissful and peaceful despite all the adverse situations that's been going on in Kali Yuga, only they are eligible to enter heaven. Without understanding this, we are reacting to every single incident. Of course, everything is going to happen to make you more and more weak at heart. So because we have committed so much sins in the past, we have to experience punishment for that, right? That's why they are doing that. You got to understand this. We are here to escape the punishment. God has come us to rescue us from the punishment. Just cooperate with Him. Just do what He says, not what your school subject says, what your parents say, what politicians say. Do what God says. He asks you to detach yourself from everybody and show undivided love without expecting anything in return to everybody. But keep yourself attached only to God. Only He is going to be there for us. He is teaching us this law of karma. Understand this. So whenever you can't concentrate on any book, remember your mind is not clearly connected to God. Immediately, what you need to do is to set away some time and connect yourself with God, then get back to what you were doing, because that's the immediate need. That's an emergency. If you are very busy doing something else, at one point or other, something is going to appear in front of you and going to make you very depressed to the point that you commit suicide. So it's a lesson to be learned. Don't blame the external situation. Everything is going as per God's order. You don't know the law of karma, what they have committed in the past to enjoy that favorism. So everything is good. Be lovable. Who knows? Maybe those who are responsible for the nepotistic behavior towards Sushant may be his own daughter or son in his previous births. We do not know that, right? So God is responsible for everything. God is looking after everything. Don't take the law into your hand. So God knows best. He knows what to give to everybody. And another thing is, if you have committed suicide in one birth, there's a pretty good chance that you will be committing suicide in your next birth as well, because it has become your sanskar or behavior. So it is the behavior that we take from one birth to another. That is what they call as the good and evil attitude. So you got to pay close attention to that. So something or other comes in front of us to enable what is inside. So if you have that suicidal tendency from your previous birth, you will definitely encounter such situations now to see whether or not you have totally come out of it. So it is only by holding the hand of God that you can come out of it. If you hold on to anybody else, you are going to be deeply depressed. No, friendship is not the solution to come out of depression. Love is not, love towards the opposite sex is not the solution. In fact, it's going to put you more depressed because you are going to feel more responsible. So you are carrying the responsibility on your head, and that's going to depress you more. So get yourself detached. Attach yourself only to God. Then you will find yourself free. When you are free, your mind is going to be very peaceful. When your mind is going to be very peaceful, that's when it works at its best. When it works at its best, success is guaranteed for you. Moreover, God is your companion. He is going to be with you. What else you need? So if you like this video, hit like and hit subscribe, and also leave your valuable comments. And thanks for watching for this long, and I will see you in the next video. And I am BK Saravana Kumar, the most loving student and son of God Shiv. Om Shanti.